Starblade here with another episode of Factorio with my good friend Darkfyere.
Hello.
So, when last we left, we were talking about trains a little bit, and I couldn't remember how to do them, and so I learned a little bit. And then Dark has recently undergone some butcher cutting into his mouth.
It hurts so bad.
Wisdom teeth, kids. Get them early before you can remember what it feels like.
Oh my god.
So when we did train, we decided we were gonna do the 2-lane train, right?
I believe so.
And we decided that we were gonna run on the left side of the rails. So what that means is when you have a 2-lane like so, you can either have trains going this upwards on the right hand side like you do in America, or upwards on the left hand side like you do pretty much everywhere else in the world.
America.
But we're gonna forego America because it actually looks a little bit cleaner, I feel, when you go up the left hand side. And the reason why is because of signals. And so with signals, kind of have to do some weird stuff. Now, actually, I should probably stop taking those apart. So let's say we have a couple of rail lines like here. Now, as you can see, when you first pull out a rail signal, and you can do this with me, Dark, and you have it in your hand, there's all these little green boxes attached on both sides of the rail, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you'll notice that based on the side that you put it on, there's little arrows in a little box on the rail, and that shows you which way the train's going to go. If it's on the outside, then you're talking about a right-hand way, right-of-way rail. If you're on the inside, you're talking about a left-hand right-of-way rail. A left-hand right-of-way rail.
Say that 3 times fast, please.
Yes. New challenge. Now, once you decide and you place it, now if you notice, you can only put them on one side. So go ahead and place a rail signal down.
So did you want this rail going north or south?
This is just, it doesn't matter. This is just for demonstration purposes.
Oh, okay.
All right, so now you can see you can only put rail signals on one side, except for the one place where you put the rail signal, right?
Correct.
Now, the reason that it allows you to put it there is if you're going to use a single rail for 2-way traffic, then you kind of need rail signals going both ways.
I see.
Makes sense?
It does.
So, since we've got these on the outside, this would be a right-hand right-of-way thing. If we pick those up and then put them on the left side, or on the inside rather, now we can only do left-hand right-of-way with just the one on the outside. Okay? So because we're dealing with double rails, we typically won't need to put anything like this. Because you notice once you put a second one adjacent, now all the both sides of the rail opens up for me again to put rail signals down. Because we're doing a 2-way single lane there. Yes, right. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. So, the rail signals also come with rail chains. So let's go with our inside track here, because that's what we're going to be doing in the series. I'm going to put it up here. What a chain signal does is you can put them back here. And you can see how they're both green right now, right? I really should have probably built another locomotive. I can't. So I'm going to go steal the one that we have.
You're going to go steal a train.
Do you have any extra engines, or did you just get enough for your car?
I have 17.
Okay, see if you can build a locomotive. on your logistics window.
No, I need electric circuits and steel plates.
Okay.
And plus you need 20 engines. All I have 17. So
okay. What am I missing? I'm missing steel plates. Oh well.
that's fine. I'll just watch you.
All right. So you see how I put the train down and this little chain signal went red. Okay. That's because between the chain signal and the rail signal, there's something in the way. So it's like, don't go. If another train's coming up this line, it will stop here so it doesn't run into this other chain. Okay?
Okay.
Now, if I had a second rail signal there, it's going to do the same thing. See? It goes red. Easy peasy, right?
So what's the difference?
If I put it up here, that's what I'm going to show. If I put it up here, this one's red, but you see how this one's green?
Mm-hmm.
It's because between this rail signal and the next rail signal, it doesn't see any traffic.
Right.
Okay? Now, if I put a chain signal in there, it's going to base its signal on the next rail signal in its path.
Oh,
So
okay.
you see how it's red? So even though there's nothing in this little block between the chain signal and the rail signal, it's still red because the rail signal's red. And so this is how you can kind of make long lengths of rail not have traffic in it. So let's say I have a long length of stuff and I don't want any train on it except for one. I only ever want one train on that length of rail. Instead of putting a bunch of rail signals along, I can put a chain signal along with the one rail signal at the end of the track on either end. And that will make sure that that rail track ever only has one train going through it. Now that's a lot more important when you have single rail setups. With double rails, it's not quite so important because you're never going to have to worry about oncoming trains hitting each other in the face. Make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So that's kind of some basic rail signal for straightaways. Now, if we come down here to this monstrosity that we built, this is what I like to call a parking station. That's
The truck yard.
Yes. We're going to set this up so that because we're going to have a number of trains coming down here to offload iron and copper, maybe even coal and some other things. And so we don't want a ton of trains running into the same station and backing things up and running into each other and blowing up and having all kinds of commotion. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a little parking area here so that if the offloading station is ever full, we can just park the next train in line to wait for it to be done and then move on forward. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Now, so how do we put rail signals in here? Well, it's a little bit complex, but I'm going to make it easy for you. Whenever you are, and it's important to make sure you have their directions right. Since we're coming in on the left-hand side, we're going to be, if this is our rail here, whoop, we're going to want like our signals to be on the inside, or at least our arrows pointing downwards into this. That's going to be on the bottom side of the track. Now, so you can put that in there, and that will stop any trains if there's anything here. But you see how there's all this like junctions and things?
Yes.
So if we put another rail signal over here, and then we put one train in here, it's going to make it red, and all of the, instead of parking in each of these little slots, they're all going to park back up on that track. We don't want that to happen.
Oh, I see that.
So the rule of thumb is, whenever you're going into an intersection, you want a chain signal. Okay, so we're coming into an intersection here, so we're going to put a chain signal down. Whenever you're coming out of an intersection, you want a rail signal. Okay?
Oh, Okay.
So we're going to do one there. That's blinking and that's fine. Don't worry about that. So we're going to want to do that with all of these. Yes. Now we don't need to put chain signals into all of these because our chain signal is just going to be the one we use up here. This is going to be sufficient for all of our intersections here. Boom. There you go. Now, over here, though, we're going to be going into an intersection to go down into the thing. Well, we don't want the trains parked here to all go at one time and crash into each other. So we need to kind of stop them in their tracks, as it were. Ha ha. So what's the rule when we go into an intersection? What do we put down?
We put down the chain signals.
Yep. Come down this early way. Just add chain signals to all these little areas. There we go. Remember how that was all blinking and craziness?
Mm-hmm.
Well, now they're not. Now, what do you notice about our parking station?
Notice that all the chain signals are stopping traffic.
Yes, because there's a train on the rail, and this rail signal here is telling all of the chain signals that it can't go forward. It's red. But what about the left-hand side?
But they can still come in to the intersection or the parallel tracks here.
Yeah.
But they just stop at the chain signal up here.
Yeah, and now watch what happens when we fill each parking space.
There cannot be more than one train in between there.
Yeah.
The way it's currently set up, that is.
Now, the only thing that's a little bit weird is you'll notice that this rail signal has turned blue.
It has.
What a blue rail signal or chain signal indicates is that some of the intersections are open for a train to pass through. So based on its final destination, if it can get there using a different pathway, this chain signal will allow them to go. If not, it will stop them.
So how do we tell the trains coming down which one of these we want them to turn into, or would they automatically turn into an open one that has a green light?
They will automatically turn into the open one that has a green light. Why?
Okay.
Because the chain signal coming into the parking structure and this rail signal leaving the parking structure is all part of kind of this big block here. And
Gotcha.
So in order to pass through that chain signal, they need to be going somewhere past this rail signal. So they'll just find whichever open slot is available, pull in there, and wait for its chance to pass forward.
Gotcha. All right.
And so this kind of just demonstrates the importance of signals to keep your trains from crashing into each other. But ultimately, it's just a nice, simple rule. If you're going into an intersection, put down a chain signal. Coming out of an intersection, put down a rail signal. Okay?
Okie dokie.
So that will be interesting when we put down crazy things like, I think I have a blueprint.
So this is the one coming into the drop-off depot up here. So what about coming out of the drop-off depot?
Well, with that, we were not going to care too much because they're going to be, if once they drop off their stuff, they're going to head back towards the mines. But if you come to where I am, let's see. So just one more thing on how complex things can get is if I drop down this little blueprint here, this is a T intersection, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can see all of the crazy ways things can go and how you have to signal every kind of pathway to make sure trains don't run into each other.
Sure you don't work for CSX?
I don't know what that is. What is that?
Come on, viewers, just tell him what it is in the comments.
SX?
Yes.
Crime scene exchangers?
No.
All right. So as far as our our offload station goes, don't pay any attention to any of this nonsense, because I'm gonna change it up. Now there's two ways to kind of do offload stations. You can have these parking structures where they will come down to an actual stop, like here. So like if we had this connected to this somehow, they would stop here and then they would reverse and go back along the track in a different way. But in order to do that, your trains have to be a little bit different. You have to have like a train like this, and then on the back end you'd have a second locomotive. And you actually see that a lot in the real world. You'll see locomotives at both ends of the train.
Right.
That's because they typically will come into some termination point and then leave going back the other way. So we can do that. It just takes more locomotives. The other way you do it is that instead of having it be a dead-end stop, we have it kind of the way we had it set up here, whereas they come into the train stop and then they continue forward and back out onto the actual path. So either way is good. It flows a little bit better if you do it this way, where the train stops just where it is and then you move them forward. Ultimately, I'll blow up some of this stuff. Think that.
By the way, CSX Transportation is a Class 1 railroad in the U.S.
Oh,
It owns about like 20,000 plus miles of railroad. So
okay.
it's like the main railroad freight service that you see in the U.S.
My dad worked for the railroad. I didn't even know.
Oh, there you go.
How terrible am I? Okay, is this? So ultimately, we'd have something like this going on. I think I made our diagonals a little more space. Well, but so they would come into the parking garage here, go and drop their stuff off, and then loop around out through here. And we can still have a double rail thing if we want actual just train stops where they terminate here to offload rather than go forward. It takes a little less rail, a bit more creativity in the signaling.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. So we've kind of got our basic setup here now, except that this rail is one tile too far away. The other way. Okay, so your task, if you choose to accept it, don't, I'll make you accept it anyways. Oh, now you went one too close.
What? That's what I get for trying to be helpful.
That's all right. So Dark got a couple of blueprints for diagonal and straight rails, and you can rotate them just like normal. Will be to extend our rail here, and you won't need to use chain signals. You'll just want to put rail signals so that, because we don't have a single line thing,
Right.
they can go and stop behind each other. And I'm going to have you extend our rail here up to the 2 iron ore patches that are in the northwest. The only stipulation is we need to go kind of horizontal when we get beneath them to make loading a little easier. Either horizontal or straight up and down. So like the left side of it.
Okay, so we're wanting a diagonal track from here, yeah?
Yeah, you can take a diagonal. If you want to erase the stuff that we did going sideways here and just keep going this diagonal up there, if you think that'll be better. That's the deal. Just get this rail to those 2 iron ore patches. Because if I remember right, the reason we started doing this is our iron ore is, right now it's backed up. We were struggling with our throughput for iron ore. Or maybe it was for oil. I don't remember. I remember we were going to need it. We ever finish with blue science or?
We did the military science, I think.
Okay. Actually need to start. I think what I'll do. Got kind of the food wagons help us to get wheel. And while you're doing that, I'm gonna try and set up a offload. Okay, so we've got this here. I was kind of playing around with it to see if it work, but it's really nasty. You can see how we have to jump over tracks and stuff, and it would just... I think what I'm going to do, make a vertical offload. Based on our space requirements, we may actually have to do a termination. Maybe. Maybe not. But what we're going to need is, this here. We're going to need to offload into this splitter. 6-to-5 split. Good, I suppose. But it... Right, and we...
Oh, the dreaded timer.
No way.
Yes, we.
There's literally no way it could have gone off that.
It has done so.
Well. Okay. So, we talked a little bit about rail. Guess that's going to do it for this episode. The next episode, we'll finish creating this station. Ultimately, what I'm going to do, we may need to do some of it off camera a little, but like this. Bring them off. Oh, and we'll make kind of like very like similar to a parking lot, but not. And what we'll do is we'll offload like iron onto the right and copper to the left. And then we can maybe bring it, we'll have some space for some other. Depends on kind of how. Stations here, like so. Just barely enough room for some. So. We'll do something like this and see how it pans out. But that'll do it for this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Did tap the like button. Helps us out and helps out the channel. And if you really enjoyed it, feel free to subscribe for more content. But either way, leave us a comment down below. We want to hear from you. But until next time, I've been Shadowblade. Q.
Darkfyre's here as well.
He's deep in thought, guys. Laying that track. Oh, stay sharp.